Hello, folks. This is H0 here, back here again. And give it a sec. Hopefully, the image will focus. But this is another TV review. This one is the Boondocks. Again, pardon the bad lighting, but it is what it is. Uh, this is one of my favorite series. Despite of me personally, of a word that they use a lot that I'm not even going to repeat. Um, but like I said, it is what it is. I had a discussion slash debate about it today with someone on Facebook, and people are going to do and say what they want to say. This is the real raw reality, and even though we do need to stop doing certain things and glorifying it overall, but that's just the reality of the nature, and that's just my opinion on it. This show has a lot of good talent behind it. It was actually originally a comic strip back in, I think, the 90s. It was by Aaron McGruder, and he also was behind the show. And speaking of which, this is season one of the show when it was technically, of course, very, very popular. And I think the R. Kelly episode and the pilot itself, had launched it. Uh, but yeah, Regina King's in this. She has a voice of the two main characters, Huey and Riley. They're both brothers. John Witherspoon, who's the granddad, and that dude from who was it? Undercover Brother that plays Smart Brother. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And one of the and the other guy, I think he was on Reno 911. I think it was Cedric Yarbrough or something like that. And the other dude's name was Gary something. But there's some other more voices in this. The late Charlie Murphy, of course, is in this, and Samuel Jackson, Mike Epps, Katt Williams. The list goes on and on for season one. Exhibit. So pretty much and I heard Aaron McGruder say this in the interview. The show and the strip are very, very different. The strip was really more for I think college kids and let me just say this, intellectually college kids and higher that that talk about a lot of the certain issues that go on, not just in the black community but in every other culture as well. Well, mostly the I'm gonna say the proper term, the Anglo-Saxon community, but they rarely talk about the Latinos and Asians, but there's still a little bit of relevance there. They mention it every once or twice. I know in the show they do. I'm not so sure about the strip because I haven't read, I haven't read a lot of the strip, but they do have a whole collection book of his strips that he did have published in a newspaper. But the show was more it was more for like the mainstream people that probably didn't read his book. And again, it's kind of, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what he really said, specifically, because I remember he did say that the show and the comic, of course, are very, very different. I know that a lot of the cast of characters, for one, don't appear in the show at all. I think the main four is main five. I take that back. Is Tom Dubois, which is their neighbor, who's a lawyer. His daughter, Huey and Riley, and granddad. And I think the new character that was created for the main cast of the show was Uncle Ruckus, and he's a big controversy and a popular character just by himself. Because he's a black guy that hates black people, and it's kind of funny because they in the black community personally, and even across other cultures, I noticed that even they say they don't like their own people 9 times out of 10. And even my uncle said that recently. He was living in New York, how a Puerto Rican guy didn't like Puerto Ricans. And again, it didn't give him much context, because every culture has their pros and cons. And again, I'm not going to give my opinion on it because I know some people probably want to attack me in the comment section if they're listening to this. But you can feel free to ask, if you're curious about it. I will, respond to you. But the show has a very, very good reference, even not as well with the media, but in cinema and film just by itself. Of course, like I said, Samuel Jackson is in this. He does one of his lines from Pulp Fiction, and they reference foreign Asian cinema, the Zatoichi, which I gotta remind myself to get so I could eventually review that too. And of course, Bruce Lee, and all those things I personally noticed, watching this. And I think in season 2 they did like more references and they got better with a lot of things. But that's season 2, so I'll talk about season 2 when we get to season 2. But the series, so far with coming out 2005, it did very, very well on Adult Swim. It was like, to me, it was a little bit of its prime, because personally I didn't watch much of. I saw this in high school. Yeah, I did watch a lot of TV, and this is one of the shows next to that, and Naruto and reality shows before I started doing my own comic book stuff, and I really wanted to do a little bit what they were doing, but have my own little thing. But again, that's another topic as well. But the more and more I watch this, I can see deeper rooted connections of what he said. There may be there may be jokes in here, but they do have some kind of context. And when you sit there and you really think about it, of how messed up, particularly the black community is, it goes over all of also the rest of the communities and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're all human. So, some people would say don't say black community because we're all in one community, but I'm like, it's really not that way. You could say you personally aren't like that, but there's a collective group of people that preach that, and they also do certain things in their behavior to divide themselves. And I even see it when I'm at work here all the time, and it sucks that it is that way, because I like learning about other cultures. I even got into anthropology a little bit to study a little bit about more different cultures than mine, or the ones we're not used to seeing. But the main thing that I think McGruder said that stuck with him, or what has stuck with me, was that he was able to put in the show all the issues that are mainly about today, tomorrow, and how did he say it? I think it was it's pretty much the past, the present, and the future. He didn't say that word for word, but it's all the issues that sorted out. Like the best one, and this is the one I caught the most. I think it was in a pilot episode when Granddad was saying we didn't get attacked by dogs and fire hoses, so we can live here in the suburbs. And then Huey was like, did you get attacked by dog and fire hoses? Because it seemed like some people want to take credit for what happened to some people. And it's funny because recently, with all the police killings and all that, I kind of somewhat see that. And I say this because it was one particular story of this mom that took her kid hostage, and she didn't take him hostage, but the police was trying to come in, and she had a shotgun aimed at them or something like that. And then a week beforehand, she was going off on the cop when they got pulled over, and she was like, he was telling subliminally trying to involve her son, saying, yeah, look at all these cops who are killing all of our brothers that look just like him, and pretty much feeding this to this kid. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, this is a random stop. Nothing has happened yet. It seems like you're escalating this. Now, again, I'm not going to go deeper into it because I know some people are going to try to attack me in the comment section. Because personally, this is what I say. And the cops even do this to other people as well, because they're really doing this to get a quota, regardless if you want to throw race in the whole thing. But these cops are corrupted. We all know that, and even the New York Police Department, they caught them on tape saying this. So I know for a fact not to trust them at all. But you also have to know your laws. So, even though they poke fun at certain things that happen here with the police, I think not that much, like once or twice. I tell that to everyone. If you know your laws at least a little bit, or what the police can and can't do, they really can't challenge you on it anymore. I mean, because nowadays they have cameras on people and people still getting killed and there's no justice, you know. So again, I'm not going to get heavy political on it. And another decent thing I noticed about this as well. This is on the very last episode. It hit with the religion a little bit, and you know, I was looking on the Boondocks Wikipedia, and they were saying Huey most likely isn't he isn't he isn't religious. He's an agnostic, even though there's some episodes where he talks about Black Jesus, and he knows a lot of history and all that. And you know, he hit a valid point when I think he said, what I think he told this to Granddad when one of his Black Panther friends was in jail, and he was like, what makes Ruckus's God a little no different than yours? And where you really sit there and think about it, with organized religion, and that's really what a hit. It was really a hit on Black people, but I think the religious community as a whole is that if you notice that, you know, some people have a divine intervention and they want to share it to the point where they try to judge and condemn. And ironically, my mom's Catholic, so the last time we went to church, he had talked about judgment and not doing it. And subliminally, we all do. We even jump to conclusions. Now, what separates you from being smart about it is if you have an assumption or you have a judgment, keep it to yourself. You know, sit back and wait for the actions to come out to see if this person is correct on what your theory is, or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, judgment, or what was the other word I said? Judgment and assumption. And this is something I had to learn, because with the media nowadays, especially with these social justice warriors, they're putting the stuff out really, really quickly, and these videos are being edited and they're being cut. And then, not to mention, there are some people that really know true nature of what happened in the story. And like I said, even before I got into it with a few people online on Facebook, but you know, I was using probability words. I wasn't saying that this is what it is. And again, you can ask me about that one. Hopefully I can still remember it when it comes, you know, when I upload this video. But people nowadays, they get too hype and emotional, and it sucks because that's been fed in propaganda so much, and a lot of it, in my opinion, has, you know, social media has contributed to that. So, you know, I see a story and then I know about it, and I know the deeper roots, and I go and tell them. 9 times out of 10 they'll research it, or they just say I'm bullshitting, and you know, I'm probably a coon or Uncle Tom. And even the word coon you really shouldn't say, because my godmother told me what the essence of that word is. It's the same thing as calling a Black person So that's my review for Boondocks season 1, and this was morally about the stuff around it, a little bit about the characters, and see you in season 2. Sayonara.